welcome to the Dating Advisory Board. We're so excited you joined us tonight. We got an amazing show lined up for you. We have two amazing ladies who are so inspiring and so empowering. I love them. I love watching them all through their social media channels and talking to them about it. But we're going to talk today. We got two segments that we're going to kind of touch on. Number one, we're going to talk about how to be the best version of yourself. Number two, how to grow and start your first company. So let me introduce the fabulous, amazing ladies that I have sitting next to me, and I'm so thankful that they are here today. I have Danielle Tate. She is the author and best-selling author of Elegant Entrepreneur and CEO of the same company. She also is a speaker, and she's amazing. And we also have Elaine Espinoza-Kelt here. She is the executive director and founder of Media Savvy.
That's right.
And it's a branding company, right, that you go in.
That's right.
And she's also Mrs. DC America 2015. And she has her own podcast. Right? Is it Better Business Bureau?
Well, it's through the Better Business Bureau, so I host the national podcast for them.
Yes,
That's right.
And she's a TV spokesperson, and she has the show that I was actually on. I'm very thankful that she was there. Well, Where's MJ? I'm Every Woman. So make sure that you go on there and find it because it's really inspiring stories, and that's what we're going to be here today is kind of talking about how business and dating correlate. So what I thought was so important, is to bring up the fact that you have to be the best version of yourself prior to going into a business, into a relationship, right? I mean, you got to get your business model or personal model on point, right? And it's true. So let's kind of just go through here. I wanted to just have Danielle tell me a little bit about your background and how you started Elegant Entrepreneur and Mrs.com.
So absolutely. I am an accidental entrepreneur. I thought I was going to be a cardiologist, and after not getting into medical school, ended up in sales. And partway through that journey, I got married.
Yeah.
And was pretty excited to change my name. I know that's polarizing, but I was like, you know what? I had this really long French last name that no one could ever say, so Tate was just this succinct switch. And it took me 3 trips just to get that name on my driver's license.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. How many hours did you spend on that?
Yeah, that was 2 days off of work, and just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I was like, why isn't there something like TurboTax for name change?
It's brilliant.
And that was the spark for Miss Now Mrs. So we condensed the 13-hour tedious paperwork filing process into 30 minutes for $30 for
I wish I knew about you when I was changing my name.
Yeah, I mean $30. I mean, when you said you have over 400,000 people now,
Yeah.
that are just customers, that's so awesome. So yes, so if you're getting married or you're unfortunately not married anymore, you want to change it back.
Oh, yeah.
It's a very
Do you do
interesting
that, too?
process.
Do you change back?
That's
Or change?
getyournameback.com.
Oh, nice.
So you do both.
We do both, absolutely.
Nice.
And in the process of bootstrapping and building this multi-million-dollar company completely accidentally without a traditional business background, I learned a lot of things the hard way. I innovated things maybe differently and have this sort of straightforward viewpoint of entrepreneurship. I think a lot of people can make it sound incredibly hard just because of the words they use and the theories they apply.
Right.
And so I ended up writing Elegant Entrepreneur as the book I always looked for when I started, which was here's how you do it in plain English. Here's how it feels to go through these 12 steps from idea to exit. And then I interviewed women entrepreneurs like Barbara Corcoran and Jenny Fleiss from The Runway and got them to share a true insight and gritty story, not a tip, to help women entrepreneurs start up and scale up their companies.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so that's really kind of. And I actually have some points that I want to talk about, and how even I was kind of looking at your chapters online, and I thought how they relate to dating as well, and because we're going to tie it back in, so you can talk about it too. So, Elaine, give us your background on how you started Media Savvy and became Mrs. DC America.
Oh, my goodness.
That's amazing.
It's been quite a story. Well, minding my own business, I had a career in pharmaceutical sales, and then I had my children, and then I'm minding my own business, and then this opportunity came along, and I said, everyone said, why? Why did you do that? And really, my answer is, why not? That was as plain as it was for me. I don't think too hard. And by the way, I think that's a great tip for any person looking to move forward in business or personally as well. Don't think too hard. Don't overanalyze. I mean, I could have talked myself out of that or anything for that matter.
I mean, that goes the same for dating.
Yeah,
absolutely. Hello, we overanalyze. Oh my God, they did not call me back.
What does
in
this
T
mean?
minus
What does this
3
mean?
seconds.
Yeah.
They must mean they don't like me. right? Or whatever the case, or they didn't respond, or, I mean, so that's actually a very valid point that we can use in business as well in the dating world.
I am like anti-analyze. I just do things.
I know.
And so I did that, and then I won, and it was fabulous. And by the way, I'm so glad that we met today, because we do have a lot in common. And my platform was and continues to be empowering women through entrepreneurship. And I just firmly believe that the modern woman can and should have it all, whatever all means to her. I always make sure I say that, because I don't want anyone to misunderstand what I mean by that. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to look this way. You don't have to have this or this title or this success or this amount of money. You just need to be, let's redefine what successful means. And to me, that means being happy, being joyful, doing what you love, and doing it well.
Exactly.
And doing it well.
Stay in your lane. As I
That's
say,
right.
stay in your lane. Like, do what you're good at. Like, I know what I'm good at.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to do 80 different things. You just, you pivot and ask someone else to help you with it. Like we did earlier, like we had a Facebook Live here a little bit ago, and we actually brought, we're talking about, us as women, like, especially we're all moms, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're mother, entrepreneurs. And so we're like juggling a lot of stuff all the time. And it's like, we don't necessarily ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
No. It has a tendency to be like, I can do everything. No.
Yeah, no.
Can most
No,
of the time.
I mean we can, but do we want to?
That's right. No, that's right. We can if we want
We
to.
can.
We just don't want
We
to.
just don't want to do it. But
all the time.
it's not all
Right.
the time.
That's
no,
right.
but I think is we don't ask enough. If we have your book, or like if you have your new book or your new speaking engagement, same with you, or you're looking for more people to be on your shows.
That's
I mean,
right.
we're not putting anything out there. So I created, I call them like the pods. I mean, I use a Facebook group page, the pods. I mean, I don't know how I came up with it, but it's just like these pods of people that are very similar in what you do, right? So if they're like, for all of us, we all have shows or all in speaking engagements. So you don't want to get the pods too big, because then you're like you're flooding.
Yes.
And then it gets irritating, and then all the
Well, that's like what you said.
notifications.
Stay in your lane. Like, let's not just, sometimes you have to rein it back in, right? To
Absolutely.
keep things focused.
Yeah. And I think that because you'll actually get more success if you have 4 or 5 people that you'll say, hey, I need your help. It's very hard, especially for us, entrepreneurs, we're like our type A personalities, to say, I need help, right? Or I need, it is what it is. So we actually said, I'm actually looking to have an introduction to this company or this person. Do you know anyone? Well, in our circle, chances are they probably know them, right?
Right.
But if you never ask that,
Yeah.
you'll never know. Right. And so and the same in dating, like you're going to like kind of sit behind some clothes and be like, oh, I don't know why I don't want to talk.
Oh
to that
gosh, you need to
person."
talk about it. Don't overanalyze. That's not what I'm saying. But yeah, talk to your friends about it. Talk to people about it. You can't do everything alone, and you for
Right.
sure need to get feedback to get better.
Yes.
Not to just sulk,
Yeah.
but get better, to elevate
Right.
your game.
Right. And
Yeah.
that's what we talk about. Advisory boards are so important in business as well, and in your personal relationships, because you are saying, okay, what am I really good at? What am I could need some refreshing training on? What can we do to help each other out?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think this is a good transition into asking about, talking about, you are a spokeswoman for Empowered Women International. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So it is my favorite nonprofit in DC, and what we do is very aligned with my mission to get more women to start up and scale up. We use entrepreneurship education and training to help at-risk immigrant and refugee women in the tri-state area not only become financially independent, but also to give them social stability and feel like they belong to the community. These women aren't going to make the next Google, but the income they bring in stabilizes their families. It goes to education, it goes to food, it goes to all of the comforts that make the United States not just a place they live, but a home.
Right. No, I love that. I mean, and I actually pulled some data off of Danielle's website too here, and it says 99 million women-owned businesses are in the United States. $2 trillion in total revenue for women-owned businesses. It's amazing. 9 million people are employed by women-owned businesses. 85% of the consumer and business spending is influenced by women.
Yes. Now that statistic is not surprising to me, because we know that women, we are the backbone of society. We have so much to do with what you buy at the store, what you do, what your kids do, what your kids don't do, where they go to school. I mean, everything. Women make the decisions. Let's not forget that.
But yeah, it's
Yeah.
very rarely highlighted how many women-owned businesses there are. And it's a big number. It should be bigger, but it's an inspiring number. It's not like there's 2
Right.
or
Right.
even 2 million. Like
Right.
there are 99 million. Like that's a huge number. I feel like we're at this tipping point in women's entrepreneurship where it's no longer the fact that I walk into a room and I'm the only woman there.
Right.
Now
Right.
it feels like, there's 30% of the room are women, and there's so many women specific entrepreneurial groups and
Yeah.
activities. So while I love men,
communities.
I really feel like women entrepreneurs are the key to economic and social happiness globally.
I
Well,
definitely couldn't agree more. Women bring, and again, this is nothing against men, but women bring a sense of community, as you said, and sort of humanity and empathy into everything we do. We don't separate that from anything that we're doing, right? I think most men just historically have been able to do the job, job, focus on the job.
Very pragmatic, very like this is how it's going to be,
Yeah.
like planning every step of the way, but you can't plan everything.
Right.
And
You
there's
know?
also more and more companies are having that double bottom line, where not only do they make a profit, they also make a positive impact. And
Absolutely.
I think that's awesome and something that's very much been fostered by more and more women coming into the entrepreneurship world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know. I love it. I mean, like, what kind of advice would you give to women who are, as we kind of go back, we talk about being the best version of yourself, So let's talk about how do you present our best self so then we can kind of tie it into the, business and dating world as well.
Sure. Well, there has to be a purpose there. You have to really think about how you want to present yourself. And I'm not talking about physically by any means. I'm talking about it really coming from inside, and most importantly, being your authentic, genuine self. That is there we go.
Amen.
I mean, that is the way that
Amen.
you are
Ring my
going
bell on
to
that
truly
one.
present your best self. You're not trying to present someone else. You're not trying to present a fake version of yourself. I mean, anybody can doll themselves up and look great, but what's really coming from in here? And by the way, people can see right through that.
Oh, yeah.
And so what's the
Absolutely.
point? You're not fooling anybody.
Yeah.
But if you want to present your best self, you need to work on those things inside. What makes you happy? What doesn't make you happy?
Right.
What can you improve upon? You have to really be real with yourself. Oh, and by the way, understand your gifts and your talents and cultivate them.
Yes.
That's one way to present your very best self. Work on those things that you're good at and then put it out there.
That's true.
Yeah. So
The more that you can just really hone in on like what your major skill set is, right? The more that you'll be more successful in that area, and then you can offset and contract out in the different areas of your business that you're not, because now there's so many virtual assistants that you can get, and there's Fiverr, or like you need we're talking about like I was trying to come up with a slogan for a new kind of Facebook Live, the weekly thing, and I'm like, I need someone who can help me with my Canva, I mean, just stuff like that. I mean, but stay in your lane, know what you're really good at, and like don't pivot from that, right? Just really hone in on what you want to do.
And also, don't be afraid to say what you're good at. I think we're very taught to be modest, which is important. Like, no one likes someone who brags all the time.
Sure.
Right.
But when I talk to women, especially about pitching, it's not bragging if it's true.
yes,
The time
I agree.
That's a
to,
good point.
be overly modest is not when you're standing in front of, a room full of venture capitalists. That's when you say, this is why I'm good at what I do. This is why I am the person to make this idea and this company successful.
Yes.
And being able and comfortable to list why you have these skills and these assets is important. And that
Absolutely.
flows right back into dating. Like, you need to be able to look across the table and be, confident without being braggy. Like, here's what I do. This is who I am.
Yeah.
These are the skills I bring. This is what I bring to the relationship.
Right. Your elevator
Like,
pitch.
Yeah,
Right.
basically.
Yeah.
And it seems like a fine line, right? Because if you're proud of who you are and what you've done, here's the deal: if you're not truly proud of it, it's going to be arrogant.
Right.
But if you are truly proud of your accomplishments because you worked hard in a genuine way to get there,
Yeah.
that's just being genuine and authentic and what I like to call being passionate. And I think that people love what other people are passionate about. And that is
the
the
energy,
difference.
like they can
Yes.
tell, like they'll want to give like, oh, what are you doing? I want to learn more about this, just because they can see it in your eyes, they can hear it in your speech, they can hear in your tone, they can just see like, wow, that is impacting. Because usually, it's a personal thing for them, right? So you're talking about like you really like the dating advisory board. Like, I wanted to build a community, of fabulous women to help empower each other, because I diverted from my lane and I should have stayed on my lane.
Okay.
And I needed some dating strategy. I mean, I was just kind of you're in this kind of like there wasn't any apps
Right.
for years. I mean, or at least when I was, so it's just, kind of, it comes from a true, genuine place.
Yeah.
Like wanting to help people, in business, because that's what we're doing here is helping them, giving them strategies that they can use, which would leads me to my next question. Can you kind of go over to some of the best takeaways from their book? I mean, you can get it on Amazon, so make sure that you get it on there.
Absolutely. So this is the book I always wanted. I think I talked about that. Like here's how you do it in plain English. Here's how it feels. And here's advice. I think one of the most important things that I talk about right at the beginning is begin with the end in mind.
It's a great
Tying into
quote.
what you said, like know what makes you happy.
Right.
On the entrepreneur side, I talk to women in business and I'm like, do you want to be the next unicorn? Do you want to devote the amount of time and effort to build it to $1 billion? Why? Does that make you happy? Awesome, go do it. Or do you want to be an entrepreneur because you want the freedom and the lifestyle of being able to work wherever you want to, doing something you're passionate about?
Because that's at work.
Those are two totally different visions of success, but if it's your true vision, then it's going to be so much easier every time you have to make a decision to get where you're going. The same goes for relationship. Are you out to have some fun, or are
right.
you looking for someone
Yeah.
with a meaningful relationship? How you approach that and your mindset in those situations is kind of different. And
Right.
I think
Absolutely.
it's important to know what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, your core values, your core non-negotiables, like I always kind of joke, like probably were not the same in the 20s that they aren't today. But no, knowing that, and then, just knowing like what you want and not being afraid to say it.
And then when you do, move forward with a purpose.
Yeah,
Move forward
purpose.
with that purpose in mind. It will get
Exactly.
you so much further, so much faster.
Yeah.
Another takeaway is, which is one I thought of most perfectly for this, is don't fall in love with your idea before holding it accountable. So many people have this idea.
point.
They're
Good
like,
point.
they watch Shark Tank and they're like, oh, I have this idea and I'm going to do it. I'm going to put money in it. And they make this big dream of what their office is like and their employees and their lifestyle and how they're impacting the world. And they never take the time to evaluate that idea critically. The same goes for finding a great person in your life,
Yeah.
a life partner. Like, if you jump in because you've envisioned this whole life and the kids and the car and the house and the
point.
this,
Yeah.
before you really got to know and make sure that person aligns with your core values and wants the same things and sees success the same way,
Right.
then you've sold yourself down the river. And once you've made those dreams, it is really hard to go back and be critical. So
Yeah.
in business and in relationships, I
Right.
really feel like evaluate before you get really, really attached.
Yeah. Just have that conversation. Some people will say, "Well, you wait like 3 or 4 days to find out what they're looking for." I'm like, "Why?" I'm like, "This is like you need to like ask it up front. Like, what's? I mean, not in that kind of way, but
Sure.
just saying like, hey, what's going on?" And but you do have to get to know somebody. But
And then, I think the last one, which is probably fodder for a great conversation, is overcoming setbacks and competition.
Yes,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
one thing I wanted to talk about today.
Let's go
there. Why
there
don't
right
we?
now.
So, from the business side and in life, there are always setbacks,
Yes.
and how you handle them
Right.
really, I think, determines your end game. I mean, we
Exactly.
all get hurt.
Yes.
Bad things happen to us.
Yeah,
To
and you
everyone.
disappointed.
Yeah, you can make that. You can get bitter. You can hide in the
Yeah.
couch. You can hide in the ice cream, or you can,
get out there and
I
run.
give myself 20 minutes to have the big emotion.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I get back into, okay, let me use all this residual angst and energy to fix it or learn from it or make sure it never happens again. And really just sort of take that energy and move it as positive as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like just kind of turn it into like
One of the things that I struggle with, and I'm sure most people do the most
Yeah.
in terms of setbacks, whether it's professionally or personally, it's when they come from another person. If I have a setback because I didn't properly, apply for such and such papers or some technical difficulty, that's one thing.
Right.
That's disappointing. You can work it out. You can
Right.
fix it. But sometimes from an emotional standpoint, if you feel like you've had a setback from another person, ooh, that hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
And as much as I say I don't like to analyze, I just do. I mean, you can't help it sometimes when you feel, I don't know, offended or hurt or insulted. And sometimes that can set you back a little bit. You start to, what did my husband say? FUD. What is it? Fear, something, and doubt.
fear.
What is
fear
it?
your doubt.
He said, yeah, that's a technical term. But it's when someone tries to put this sort of, uncertainty. Fear,
Okay.
uncertainty, and doubt. It's when someone wants to insert that in your life. And then
Yes,
as an
'cause they're
entrepreneur,
hating
and as an entrepreneur or whatever it is you're doing, you can't help sometimes. It's, wow, maybe I'm not going the right path. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe I am not as great at this as I thought I was. And at the end of the day, you might want to take it in. Maybe it has a valuable lesson. Maybe someone said that to you or came in your life for a reason, or maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe they're
Right.
just, maybe there's just, your success or your path makes them feel a certain way. Who knows? At the end of the day, who knows?
Yeah,
That's
who
the
knows?
point. Who
Yeah.
knows? But maybe take it in, take it for what it's worth or
Right.
not, but you have to move
not.
on. But that's
Absolutely.
one thing
Yeah,
I think,
exactly.
like as you said, competition sometimes.
But there's a way
that
you can frame it too.
Yeah.
And I feel like having an actual conversation, either in person or by phone, it's so easy to hide behind screens. It's just, but it's also harder even with emojis to interpret
Yeah.
Yeah.
what someone's saying. Because I've definitely had a moment where I was like, was that like meant to be as mean as it came out?
right.
And I
was that one eye with the tongue out? Was
Yeah.
that friendly? What was
I
that?
was like, so
To watch that tone.
am I offended and hurt, or am
Right.
I just misunderstanding? I actually picked up the phone and I was misunderstanding. So I'm really glad that I was humble and was like, I got that text message and I really wasn't sure how to take it. And they're like, oh no, I was doing this. And so, saved a friendship, like saved a situation. And so I was glad that I asked and
Yeah.
made sure that I understood that. And I mean, it would have been really interesting if they'd been like, oh yeah, I actually meant it mean. It would have been
Right.
like,
Well,
okay.
it's very
Yeah,
mature of you
good
to do that.
know.
Yeah.
Just so you're aware,
Right.
it was taken in the tone that I sent it in.
Perhaps we're not friends.
Right. That emoji was sad.
Yeah, that was sad emoji.
That's what that angry emotion was.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I know. All right, well, we're going to take a short break here for a second, and when we come back, we got more amazing questions, and then really good news article to talk about. So stay tuned. Well, hello and welcome back to the Dating Advisory Board show. I'm so excited that you guys tuned in tonight. We just took a short break, but we have some amazing questions to talk about. You know, I got the amazing Danielle Tate here to my left and the amazing Elaine Espinola-Keltz here. And so, you know, Danielle has Elegant Entrepreneur, right? So she is a CEO and founder. She's how to start your company, right? And hello, Mrs. DC America 2015. And she's the founder and CEO of Media Savvy. So as we're getting into that, so let's talk about, can you tell us a little bit about Media Savvy and how you created it?
Sure. You know, I found myself doing spokesperson work, and I love it. I love doing that. I love being able to help share someone's story, and I was doing that for various, different producers and things. And then I realized I can do this for myself. And that's when I launched my company last year, Media Savvy. Awesome. And basically what we do is provide consulting and services to help small businesses elevate their brand, enhance their brand through digital advertising, through video, basically. So let's just say you are a cake pop store, right? And you're starting whatever it is, small business, whether you're remodeling, whatever it is, how can we enhance your marketing through video? Maybe I can interview you as the CEO and entrepreneur of your company to talk about who you are and what you do. I believe that people like to do business with those that they know and they like and they trust. Well, how do you always get to know and like and trust someone if you don't know them?
Right.
I can help you with that.
Yeah, she can help you.
Great idea.
That's what I do.
That's awesome.
And I love it. It's so fun, and it's very interesting because, you know, as I said, I had this career in pharmaceuticals. I've, stopped working to raise my kids, and I find myself here in this sort of second career, if you will, and I love it.
Yeah,
I love
that's
it.
fun.
Everything happens at the right time for the right reasons, but I wish I did this a long time ago.
I know.
But that's okay.
Well, you know, it's funny actually you say that. I have a sidebar story. Like when I was younger, and I talked about it on a previous show, is that, you know, I never thought how like being in telecommunications was going to lead to me to here today, right? You know, I mean, I thought I was like, I'm going to go out to LA. I'm going to be in the music industry because I love music and the whole deal. And my uncle, I was living in Myrtle Beach at the time, going to Coastal Carolina University, a little shout out. But my uncle was like, well, hold on a second. Like you don't have any contacts out there. Like how are you going to grow your business and network? And so he was a big CEO at the time. So he said, move to DC. Like, well, you can shadow me. So at like 18 years old, I started being shadowed by this major, CEO who was brilliant, and that he taught me a lot. I mean, a lot of the success, and my dad too. I mean, I had, a lot of mentors growing up. And I said, well, how is this going to get me back to LA?
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you have to make contacts and build your thing. You'll build your network, and then eventually you can, go out there once once you get set up on what you wanted to do. And then, obviously, I never made it to LA because I'm still sitting here right now.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you, if he was your first, how old were you, did you say?
I was 18.
Okay. So
or not 18, 21.
So he was like your first mentor, if you will.
Yeah.
What did you learn from him?
Reading
Just curious.
people.
Oh.
Reading the conversation. It's like how you're interpreting it. Like a very intuitive, like watching facial expressions, right? That's like, not like how, like crazy, the feds or something. But it's just like watching like like that kind of
like
stuff.
CIA training.
Well, I mean,
Okay.
it's still a little bit up for debate. But where he learned this from? No, I'm just kidding. No, but it was just like how when you're engaging with a customer or a business prospect, you can't be all crazy if they're very timid and very shy. You have to match the behavior, right? You have to match how in the boardroom. I mean, would you say that?
I'm sure we both learned that in sales training.
Absolutely.
The mirroring of not only energy but postures, that sort of thing.
Right. Absolutely. You're going to get someone to open up to you more. If they are speaking quietly, you want to also lower your tone. If they're really animated and excited and you're sitting there like lowering your tone, that's an off conversation. You're not going to get very far.
Yeah.
So that's a great
tip. You're not going to close that deal.
I mean, wrap it back into dating.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you got this big boisterous personality, and then you get someone who's just like, oh, hi.
Right. Well, maybe that's a sign, though. That might be.
Yeah,
you don't need to act a
that might
certain
not
way.
be-
That might just be a sign. But you're right. I mean, you're not going to get to know someone better if you're not reading their cues.
Or being open with yourself, like, being scared, like, oh no, this is, it's too much or whatever. Just like kind of, you hear all these stories about, people just getting, scared in business. So taking risks. So that's actually a really good segue.
Yeah.
Taking risks in business and taking risks in relationships, right? Because they want it to be, and you had talked about this a little bit too, about staying safe. So let's talk about it from the business, and then we'll kind of talk about it on the dating.
One of my favorite quotes, which is framed in my office, is "She who dares wins."
Can we just
double ding.
Simple, 4 words. And it's true. If you aren't daring and pushing and doing the kind of scary fringe to like completely freakish, scary things, are you really living? And like I have lots of friends who are like, well, you know, I'm really comfortable and I'm safe. And instead of taking the risk, like they just don't make the decision. Like they sort of hide from it. And I'm like, you're not only avoiding the risk, you're avoiding the opportunity.
Absolutely.
So you have to dare and you have to do, especially in business and in dating too. Like there are high stakes on both.
Yeah, I think that, you know, you have this person like, well, I'm scared. I don't want to put myself out there. You know, I'm afraid of getting hurt again. Right. Well, okay. Yeah. We've all been there. Okay. Been there, done that. But could you imagine like missing out on something great just because you're scared? So you're just going to live in a fear-based thinking. No, I would 100% rather put myself 100% out there and maybe get that return on investment.
And I don't want to misread people, but if you say I'm just comfortable, are you really?
Are you really comfortable?
Really? Because
you're scared.
You know, a year is going to go by. What are you going to do with that year? Are you going to stay in your comfort zone? Are you really comfortable, or is there anything at all in your life that you're looking to improve upon, enhance, try something new? Why do you think we have New Year's resolutions? Because everyone wants to do a little something, whatever it is. So yeah, I challenge people who just say, well, no, I'm comfortable, I'm so happy. I think that's great. We should understand our circumstances and be happy with it. But if there is just that little thing in your brain that says, I really want to try this. I really want to do this. I really want to meet this person. What are you waiting for?
Just pick up the phone and call them. Who cares? So you're going to like live in regret and be like, man, I should have called this person.
Right? Like
or called a client or, you know, a relationship or, you know, old friend, whatever. You're going to be like, oh, you're going to be 70 and you're like, oh, yep, should have called that one. Should have, you know.
Dares wins.
Right.
I really like that.
Or he should, or he.
Yeah.
Right. Or like in business, like think about that. Like, you know, if you really want that client,
you got to do it.
You got to do it.
If you don't get them, okay, you didn't get them, but you're not going to live with that forever
regret.
80-year-old in your rocking chair, like, oh my gosh, what would have happened
if I just reached out?
If I had just reached out, like, what's the worst that can happen? I play that game sometimes in business. It's like, okay, I don't want to fail, but if I don't get this opportunity and I put myself out for it, what's the worst that can happen? And usually the worst that can happen is like mild embarrassment or feeling a little bit hurt.
Right.
Not a massive thing. And so you can just sort of prod yourself. I mean, we iterate in business. We iterate on ideas. Like we have to iterate on ourselves. It's back to your point.
You know what? If anyone likes jewelry, you know the name Jessica Heron. She is the CEO and founder of Stella & Dot, and she has grown, and she has Ever Skincare and all this other stuff. And I used to do Stella & Dot just as I like jewelry, and I'm just going to do it, whatever. And as with most people that meet this woman or any just sharp, smart businesswoman, you fall in love. You're like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. She's done incredible things. I'm sure you know her at some capacity. She had the Wedding Channel, right? And so anyway, just came to just really respect and admire this woman. I no longer do Stella & Dot. However, with the Better Business Bureau, I'm all about looking for elite entrepreneurs and industry-leading experts to come on the podcast and talk about consumer tips. So I thought, I wonder if I could reach out to Jessica Heron. I mean, I haven't done Stella & Dot as a stylist for, 5 years, but I think I might have an email with her email address on there.
There you go.
So I emailed her. And I also met her, right? I was, for a minute, I thought, well, who am I to reach out to her to ask her? She's incredible. She's amazing. She lives in California. She's doing XYZ. But I did it anyway. What's the worst that can happen? My email goes unreturned, or she says, no, thank you, or I hate you, which she would never do. But what's the worst that can possibly happen?
Right.
Exactly.
I sent the email, and I got a message back from her assistant. Jessica would love to.
See, I mean, there's amazing things can happen when you don't live in fear-based thinking.
Really psyched. And that's just another, that propels me moving forward, that experience. And I hope that that's what it does for other people. When you go out of your comfort zone and something amazing happens, use that experience to keep moving forward.
Could you imagine you go out of your comfort zone? Okay, so here's something. I challenge you to do 5 things that you would not normally do. Right?
Yeah.
5 things.
Yeah.
Okay, and maybe that's aggressive, but okay, 3.
Okay.
You know, I mean, let's
Start
just
with
start with 3. I mean, something like for me, I would never jump out of a plane, but that I fly.
You heard it here.
Yeah.
So
Oh my God.
what are you doing
I'll
now?
go with you. I've gone.
You have gone?
Wow.
I keep driving. I went by. I always get my hair done. I'll do a shout out to Evolve Salon. It's like I drive over the bridge.
Looks
to
amazing.
See, oh, thanks, thanks, sisters. But yeah, so they had this iFlight. I was trying to get like some girls like G and O to go out and do this because I was like, that is the closest that I will ever get to doing
The one in, let's go.
Because I don't know if there's any. I just saw it on my way to get my hair
one in
done.
Loudon.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I mean,
You want to talk about learning about what's important to you?
oh yeah. This
As
is
you
really
jump
good.
out of an airplane, like literally, I love like scuba dive, I skydive, like I'm an adrenaline junkie.
So
to
you've done
begin
this.
with.
You said you've done this. Okay.
And so I was at sales training, and it was over a weekend, and I was near Skydive Arizona, so I went, and I'm feeling pretty cool, and like you're going up and you're going up, and I finally checked my altimeter because I'm like, oh, we've got to be like pretty close. We're like halfway up.
Oh.
And so
got
like
some time.
as I'm on the plane,
Yeah.
I'm like sending messages like, oh, I love you, and da da da, and I wasn't thinking about certain projects and things that had been sort of taking up a lot of my time. And so the clarity you get as you jump out into air
Yes.
and just watch the world falling away, and
That's
it was,
actually a valid
it was
point.
fantastic. It was,
Wow.
I need to get out of my
need to do
comfort
it.
zone. I mean, let's not get aggressive. We'll see how it goes.
you learn about yourself.
I'll
Like,
learn about
the
it.
adrenaline rush.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
couldn't open the doorknob to the gift store.
Oh, yeah.
'cause I like was shaking. So
Was
much.
this before and after?
After. I was
After.
in the-
Oh, because it was still there.
I was
Oh,
just like,
wow.
oh my gosh, this is amazing. And so they're like,
Yeah.
wow, is that your first jump? I'm like, yeah. They're like, we could probably tell because I'm like, I need to buy stuff.
Have you gone back since?
I've been a couple times.
Nice.
Oh wow, that's awesome. But yeah, I
Very
mean,
cool.
think about that. I mean, you push out, you're out, and then you'd be like, wow, I can do other things. But if you just
Yes.
sit here and say like, I'm not gonna like, I'll do the iFly, I'll probably freak out. But I mean, but then I'll be like, oh, I can do this. Like we did the trapeze that one time. Oh, it's
Oh, I haven't done that.
Oh, it was scary because I was like, I haven't done gymnastics since I was, I don't know, 8. And so, being up there on the thing, and I'm like, I'm just going to sway, and you just hear screaming as I go down, but at least I did it, So then I felt good, and then I was like,
really
okay,
cool.
I'll do this again. And then so it's like the more that you kind of get open, like with feelings, or even in relationships, being open to being vulnerable. I mean, that's how you create true intimacy. I mean, I think that's really important, right?
Absolutely.
Like the more that you put yourself out there, but so people don't want to do it because they've been hurt in the past, right? They say, oh, well, I'm just going to keep everything shut down. Well, okay, then you'll just live your life like that.
Then be shut.
Then be shut.
Shut
Okay,
down
that's
forever.
fine. Yeah,
That's-
but you'll
yeah.
never. What if you could have something great?
Yeah. Don't tell me
Yeah.
you're comfortable in that spot. You're not.
Yeah, and then you're always like trying to validate it, too,
Right.
Like
Right.
so, like like the 80-20 rule, that one.
But also on top of all of that, all of us saying like, do this, push yourself.
Yeah.
Give yourself grace. Like,
Right.
so many women, like we're so good at thinking of all the reasons why we would fail before we even start. Or when we hit our first 2 or 3 failures, we're like, well, I'm just not good at this. Like, this really isn't meant for me. Think about, we're all moms, your
Yeah.
children.
Yes.
Did you ever chastise one of your kids for falling down when they learned to walk?
No
That is a long process.
Right.
Yeah.
And no kid has ever been like, oh, I don't think I'm going to walk.
This is not meant for
and no
me.
mom has been like, yeah, that might not be your thing. Why don't you just stick with crawling? Like,
Right.
so having that mindset of like, you know what? Like, while I want to push myself and do all these things, it may take time
Right.
to feel comfortable and feel successful and get there. But
Yeah.
if you just
Absolutely.
keep that momentum, you will eventually figure it out and walk and then run.
Yeah.
Celebrate all stages. And I always talk
Yeah, that's a
about
good
gratitude. It's the best attitude because you don't always need to
Write that
jump.
down.
Write it down.
Ding.
Ding. Write that
You
down.
don't always need to be jumping out of airplanes and maxing out your company and doing all these high achieving, amazing things to be alive. If you just simply do nothing that requires zero money or zero anything, and you are simply thinking about how grateful you are right now to
Right.
be with friends on this awesome podcast or whatever the scenario is. Honestly, I drove here. I'm grateful I have a car. Not
Right.
everyone has one.
The sun is shining.
Yeah,
sun is
I mean,
shining.
really. So I guess my point is celebrate all stages. Celebrate the little things. I have a car, and celebrate the big things. I just launched a company and I can buy a new car. Whatever it is, celebrate
Don't
it
forget
all.
to do it. Like, and don't forget to give your time because as busy entrepreneurs too, you don't take like I can just do one more thing. Like, let me just take like I went hiking at the other day, but I was like I could do. Let me just wait 20 more minutes, just 20 more minutes, and then I was like, no, get up and go.
Yeah.
Just do it. And
Yeah.
so, but having that kind of thing, and you talk about adventures, right? And create and girlfriends. Here's something is a really good idea that we kind of started doing too is like create those girls' night out as adventures or experiences because you're not going to get that time back.
No.
Yeah.
Right. And then, you create friendships and then you meet other people and then your tribe becomes bigger and tighter. And, it's just, and then you get to experience amazing things
Absolutely.
too, which is just really fun.
Hey, speaking of girlfriends, see this sash right here? I am hosting a reunion for the ladies from the Mrs. America pageant from the class of 2015 next weekend in Washington, D.C. It's going to be a blast. So a shout out to those girls. But 2 years ago, I didn't even know who they were.
Right.
Now I have a friend in every state. And they're real friends because at this stage in our life and what we did, it was a very, I found to be a very authentic and genuine and empowering situation. These women, they're moms. Most of them are moms,
Yeah.
and they have businesses and charities and nonprofits and just really awesome women. And I just feel so grateful to call them friends. Honestly, they're just really
yeah.
real and amazing women. And you got to make that effort. I mean, we have Mrs. Alaska flying here to Washington D.C. to be part
That's
of this.
awesome.
I mean, so when you say
cool.
like
Yeah.
make those experiences happen, do those adventures, and make those bonds with your girlfriends.
Yeah.
You need all kinds of relationships in your life to, really be fulfilled.
Right.
With your spouse, relationships, business, children, but girlfriends too.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No, I feel like you have, and for me anyway, you have to schedule it. For me,
Yeah.
friendship is having a place on my calendar, and I block those times and make sure they happen because it's really important to me. Because we can get really busy, and then all of a sudden you're like, I haven't talked to anyone, like talked, but not like really sat down and had a great time over a dinner or a glass of wine in way too long. And friendships are just too valuable.
That's a great point.
To squander. So I have like it is part of my mission, especially when you're like running a company and writing a book and being a mom.
Absolutely.
I just hit max capacity of time. And then afterwards I was like, wow, I really miss everyone, and they were gracious enough to still be my friends after that whole.
You always
that
get this
whole-
FaceTime. I love doing FaceTime with my friends.
Oh, do you?
Oh,
I don't do
God,
that
I
very
love
often,
it.
because I'm sure I'm looking
Yeah.
crazy, and I'm like, no, let's.
Oh, they all know my crazy, so they're fine with it.
But that's a really great point, because
Yeah.
as specifically speaking about entrepreneurship, you know that the job never ends. It's just there, right? And so, when you talk about how can you translate a great business practice into your personal life, most people know how to stop working, some, right? But
Right.
as an entrepreneur, it doesn't really go away, but you do have to schedule it. That's a really great point. And then personally, too, maybe you're not giving your partner, spouse, relationship
Right.
enough time, and maybe you need to schedule it.
Yeah.
I have color codes to see that there's some visual balance in my
Oh, wow.
calendar.
Oh,
So
wow.
if I
That's
look
really
and I'm
good.
like, wow, I'm really low on blue, I should probably plan a date night or
Yeah.
like make sure I'm doing something like special for my husband. I
Right.
try to have like, it's impossible to have complete balance, I think. But if you have like at least,
I try to
you know,
organize
if-
everything. That's
if
just
my
how I
calendar
work.
looks
but
like
that's
a
it, yeah.
rainbow,
I know
it's
that's
good.
right.
But if
That's
it's
right.
all
Oh,
red,
I
I
really
organize
good point.
nothing. I
Oh
need
my
to get
God.
some of
if
those.
it's all
love that.
red,
Wow.
then
My
I'm-
life has to be
I'm
organized
not
from
balanced,
like
and I
everywhere.
need to like start.
So
making
where are you
sure.
right now? Are you well balanced on your?
This is a very good month.
Okay, good.
April is one of those like birthday months in my
Yeah.
family. It's my mother-in-law's birthday, my husband's birthday, my son's 8th birthday is coming up. So I have all
birthday.
kinds of interesting like weekend and fun activities blocked off for
Okay,
all of
good.
that. So this is a particularly good time for you to ask that question.
Yeah.
Well, that brings up a good point. Like, well-oiled machine, like well-oiled, like tight-run ship. I mean, think about that. I mean, we got so much going on that so many things, with work, life, balance, everything. If you don't have it all, it can get way off kilter, and then it comes on basically on you.
Yes.
And then you begin to be like, I'm crazy, and like you're.
Yeah, it happens. That
Yeah.
for sure happens. There's no doubt about it.
I always say I have the best of all worlds 98% of the time,
Yeah.
and the worst of all worlds 2% of the time, because when it all
Comes together, like you just throw in like an extra baseball practice in the
Oh,
middle of the
yeah.
week, and I'm like, that's not on the schedule.
House of Cards.
Right? I was like, that is not on there.
Yes, I couldn't agree with that more.
Because you
Yeah.
schedule stuff like like, all right, how am I getting all this in? And like you're moving and moving pieces and all over the place. And
So let me ask you guys something. So how do you handle, obviously it's about reprioritizing, but sometimes when you're doing all these things, multitasking,
Yeah.
one thing really takes off and really takes up most of your attention, and then other things sometimes, falter or flail. How do you kind of handle that when, I don't know, other people are relying on you over here, but you're consumed with this? I mean, how do you handle that?
you want to take that one first?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
one of those hard things. I try very hard to know. It goes back to like what makes you happy. And what makes me
Yeah.
happy is, being a great mom and a great wife and a great friend and a great
Yeah.
CEO. And then add in, daughter and sister and all of these different layers. So when things get really crazy and I have to look at my priorities and I'm like, okay, like what has to go? I can't neglect those things that make me the happiest.
Right.
But there are other things, like, you know what? Like, if you have, we all have 24 hours in a day. And if you can delegate things that don't need your attention in your business, in your household, in whatever it is, then you look at that like, okay, well, maybe we do need a housekeeper, or we do need a personal assistant, or we do need
I always say it's all about ROI.
all of those things
Right.
because they make our life easier, and then we can focus on the things we really love doing.
So delegating.
Yeah.
It's a good tip.
Delegating, and again, just and prioritize it. Like I said earlier, how it comes back, like know your strengths, know what you're good at, you know,
point.
and there's virtual assistants. There's so many things. Fiverr, you can go out there, like, you know, if you're like, well, I need to do it. And that's what I think a lot of us as entrepreneurs try, like, we can do everything, you know, well, it's just let me look at it. Like, you know, like, well, let me bring it back and edit. No, you have to let that go. Like, you're going to if you want to expand your company and grow,
Good point.
you have to put it out there.
Yeah, I'm working
know?
on my next 2 books, and I just finished interviewing operations managers because while I love Miss Now Mrs., and it is my baby, and
Right.
it's a 10-year-old baby, it is matured, it is independent. There are a lot of things that it's still doing and growing.
Yeah.
But I don't have to be holding it so tightly
Right.
anymore.
Right.
Right.
It's
So
like kind of letting
that was
some
a
of that
big
control.
decision to make.
Yeah.
But I was like, I can't do all of these things, and when I can do anything, I just can't do everything.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, making that really hard delegation step.
Yeah.
It's very liberating. I can't wait
Yeah.
for her to start.
Oh
Because
my
I'm like,
gosh.
here's your list of
Congratulations.
to-dos.
Here you go.
Yeah, that's a big step for a lot of hey, that is really a big step for a lot of people because it's like from taking status quo to elevating yourself and realizing I need help. That is a big step. I think a lot of people kind of stop at that point because
Yeah.
they don't know who to trust or they can't give it up or they don't have the finances at that point in time or whatever it is. But yeah, it's a big step.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said Fiverr is really good. So
Okay.
let's write that down.
Going to.
I know. No, but I think that's, it's a very good point though. I mean, because trying to think of some of the other things we had in the book. So you were talking about some of the other points, like basing it on chapters, right? So you talk about idea, innovation, gauntlet, like having that idea, right? And then you talk about validation, market research. So talk about that. Is that more of like you're going out there researching? Because I think some of it, like you talk about business planning, building your own team, timing your leap at funding. I think some of these can translate into dating. So let's
Absolutely. So
let's go on
I've
there.
never really thought about market research from the dating perspective, but it's something that no one likes to do as an entrepreneur because you have the idea, you put it through the innovation gauntlet, which helps you determine, is it really innovative? Is it a standalone company or is it something to sell to another company or a bolt-on for something else? So you are like, okay, great, I've got this idea. Let's build a company. Let's find my business partner. Let's hire. Let's get office space. Let's do it. There's that middle piece, that market research and validation. Like you could have the best idea for a product that serves 20 people.
Right.
Unless it's insanely expensive, you're not going to be able to build a company and make a profit.
Right.
So understanding who's out there and what they really want. That's how it gets back to dating. Like, so I always give this example. If you're making an app for marathon runners or some sort of something for runners, go to a marathon. And don't show them your product or your idea. Ask them, hey, do you have this problem? The problem you're trying to solve.
Great point.
And stop and listen and write it down.
Listen.
What solution would you want and pay for that problem? And if people are like, oh, it's not that bad, I wouldn't pay for it. Again, you might want to go back to the drawing board. But if they're like, hey, I want this, write it down. It may not be your exact idea. It may iterate on it. And then tell them your idea and get their real feedback. It's hard to do this by survey because people just
Right.
check boxes.
Right.
Yes, no, sure, of course I'd buy it. But you can see someone's like pause or like, uncomfortable fidget. Like, I don't really think I want to do this, but I don't want to be mean to you kind of a thing.
Right.
So that goes right back into dating. Like, you can really sort of figure out what you want,
Right.
what you're offering, what's your product.
Yeah.
You.
What's
Right.
what's
You
your
got to
product?
see that uncomfortable fidget with your own eyes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and if you're talking straightforward and that person is like giving you all those awkward, like check the phone, like icky signs, like have respect for yourself and be like, you know what, this is great. You're a great person. This is not a great fit.
Right. Like you can tell good on
I
energy,
have
like
so
good
many people that just,
chemistry.
like, hang
Yes.
on, and like you don't have to hang on all
Yeah.
the time. There's always going to be somebody that you're meant to find.
Yeah.
and-
Yeah.
I think so too.
Speaking about that energy, like you
Yeah.
said, I really feel that one way to present your very best self is to always have positive energy. And that doesn't mean that we're not going to have bad days
Right.
because we are. And that
Yeah.
doesn't mean that, we're not negative or we don't see things that way sometimes. But especially in business or personally, when you want things to succeed or move forward, you have to have a positive perspective.
Right.
Even if that means something failed, well, how do you look at it? Did it fail or was that not meant for you?
Right. I mean, imagine going into business or personal life or personal relationship, being like, yeah, this is gonna go down.
Yeah,
this is gonna suck. Like this
Right.
is gonna be
Right.
bad. No, nobody does that.
Right.
But it kind of goes back to your fear-based thinking, right? Like what you put in your mind. A lot of the times you're like having that. Like nobody said it. That's just what
Right.
your perspective of someone
Right.
saying it. And you're like, no, get it out. No, that's just your own ridiculousness. So stop it right now and go.
Stop it.
Stop it.
My roommates, and I had this saying right as we were starting to like seriously date.
Yeah.
And people would be like, well, I don't know. Because like when you're early 20s, like you have a very specific thing you're looking for.
Yeah.
And anybody that falls out of that, you're like, oh, I don't really know. And so we had this like running slogan that was like, a girl's got to eat.
Oh.
So if you're going to eat a meal, why not eat a meal with another human and decide whether or not you fit or are
Right.
friends? Like it doesn't
Yeah.
always have to turn out to
Right.
be a romantic relationship.
Right.
And so we went on so many dates with people that became our friends.
Right. Yeah.
And joined our friend group. And I was like, yeah, girls got to eat. Like, so.
Yeah, so that's a
That's
great
a really good point,
perspective.
yeah.
You don't have to make it such a big, daunting situation. It's just the
Right.
girl's got to eat.
I mean, you might as well
I
meet
love
new
that.
friends, build
Right. Eat by
relationships. It could be
yourself or
business.
eat with someone new
Right.
and interesting.
Yeah,
Like,
why not? I mean, there's clearly a lot of apps out there. But just watch out for the crazies, you know, because they're out there. But anyway, so we got 2 minutes. We got to wrap up the show. But I just want to thank you guys so much for tuning in, having the amazing Danielle, the amazing Elaine on the show tonight. So I want to say, how can they find you?
So I am, the website is elegantentrepreneur.co. On Instagram, I'm Elegant Entrepreneur. And then Facebook's the same. Twitter, I ran out of characters, so I'm elegant_entre.
Oh, I like that. All right, Elaine.
And my website is www.mediasavvy with a capital E. So it's SAVV.com. .net. And I'm also on Facebook. I have a public profile is the best place to find me. And I'm on Instagram. I don't know my name on there. There's so many different accounts. I really need to get that
I
together.
think you're Mrs. DC 2015.
Yeah.
'cause I
Thank
just
you.
looked you up before
Yes.
the show.
Okay, so that's what it is. Yes.
That's what friends are for.
That's right.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, and you can also find The Bistro. You can download that on iTunes to hear some great consumer tips from entrepreneurs through the Better Business Bureau.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, this went so fast, girls. I mean, I can't wait to have you back on the show. We had a great time. I just love it. So thank you so much for tuning in tonight to the Dating Advisory Board show. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good night, everyone. All right, see ya. Bye.